Hi gang, good morning. So I just discovered something kind of neat maybe a week ago, and I like to share whenever I do find tips and tricks. So I wanted to come on and share backstory, like, oh geez, I don't even know how many years ago, almost 20 years ago. I'm like a little baby attorney, little baby ADA, working in the DA's office. And even before kids and before any family life, I was already kind of struggling to get to work on time. Anyway, I have a conversation with a colleague in the office whose name was Sue Bauman at the time. Now it's Susan Myhock. If you're not following her, she's a doll. You should follow her too. Anyway, she says to me, and back then I had a bob, and she's like, you should just let it air dry, meaning my hair. And I was like, what? No. Yeah, you should try it. And don't know why I was so afraid to try it. And I did. And that was really, as silly as it sounds, groundbreaking, life-changing, saved me so much time in the morning. Did not look as good, admittedly, but it was good enough. So I did that for a number of years, and that was really life-changing. Now, because of the kids, I'm back to long hair because I found that easier, quite honestly, because usually you can skip a day and wash and dry every other day. And something else came up just recently. So I'm a little behind the eight ball, and I'm willing to admit that people have been curling their hair now for a couple of years, right? That like beachy wave, half curled, half uncurled thing is all the rage. And ironically, I spent the first half of my life looking like that. Every perm that I paid for in the 90s would not curl here, right? This would still be 2 inches of straight. And then it would take here and there'd be bumps. And then this part would be straight. Now, who knew back then I could have been like the trendiest thing ever if I just would have committed to that and nicknamed it beach waves. Anyway, so I find it very funny that people are paying for that. But anyhow, I digress. I'm coming on today because I think it's pretty amazing that somehow I didn't realize until now, and then thanks to another friend, Stephanie Paradiso, to give credit where credit is due. If you're not following her, you might want to follow her because she has great tips and tricks, was talking about curling her hair and did a demonstration. But the part that I took away from it wasn't the demo necessarily, was the fact that she said that she washes her hair, lets it air dry, and then curls it. I have never tried this. So I admit that I didn't really get into the curling thing when everybody else did because I thought it was extra work, because I thought I had to dry first, then go back in and use a curling iron. So as of last week, I've just realized, light bulb went off, I can curl it without drying it. Holy cow. And that is so much faster because this is, I don't know that you can tell, but this is a lot of hair. So to try and dry this takes at least a half an hour, sometimes 45 minutes. I don't have that kind of time. Particularly today. Today was early morning orchestra. So anyhow, so that's my revelation. If you didn't know that, you could stop watching here and just start trying that. And it's not as fluffy as if I had dried it and then curled it, but it's really not bad. So it's a neat trick to save me time during the week. So if you're anything like me, you may fall in love with just that idea alone. But in case you want to keep watching, because you're not somebody who's curling at all, I am old school, I admit it. I'm not using one of these new fancy ones. I'm still using the old-fashioned open and close, because I don't think my skills are at a level where I'm going to start using something else. But anyway, so I put it in as high as I can go, and then I start to curl. And I take the end part of it that's still like not in the curling iron and sort of wind it over like that so that it feeds in slowly. First I parted it. I didn't describe that, but I'm sure you saw that. So I parted it, divided it up, and then I just take small sections. I would say probably an inch, not any more than that or it's too much hair. And then you just sort of slowly come down the hair shaft. And as you come down, hopefully you can see that as I'm also trying to watch myself at the same time. As you come down, more of the hair that was at the end here will feed in, so that if you do it slow enough, eventually you'll get the ends. And again, that's going to be up to you. That's a matter of personal taste. Like I said, I don't really get into this idea of a curl here and then flat here. It's not me, but you do you, right? Everybody does what they need to do. And that's it. And it's so much faster. I really just can't even get over. This is like 5 or 10 minutes as opposed to, you know, a crazy like hour-long session trying to do my hair. I don't know about you, but I don't have time for that. So that's it. You just work your way around, and I section it off, and I try not to take too much. And you might be able to see a little better with this one, that you go as high as possible. I sort of treat it like it's getting curled under, I guess would be the way that you would describe it. All right, and then we took that piece that was at the bottom and we're winding it up and around slowly. And it'll pop back out at first, you know, because it's not really in the groove yet. And then eventually it'll, see how it just starts to feed in. I don't need a lot of heat. I don't need a lot of, I'm not really trying to get it like crazy, crazy curly. But it's funny, you will see it, like I did the before and the after so that you can see what a difference it makes. It just takes it from this very like unfinished look where it would be totally obvious that it air dried. I don't even know what you want to call this. I mean, it's not, as a kid I had Asian straight hair, like pin straight, gorgeous, shiny, healthy hair, and just had this idea from a child that I wanted it curly, that it needed to be curly. And I don't like to lay blame, but I guess I am going to sort of blame my mom for that. Like from a very early age, anytime we had anything, pictures or whatever, I always had to go to bed with rollers in my hair. So it gave me this distorted notion that it should be curly. And I mean, still today, I guess I'm still stuck with that idea that if you have a round face, chubby cheeks, whatever, it looks as though your hair should be curly. Most people with red hair have curly red hair, not straight. So it just, I don't know, it never seemed to fit. So we started messing with it right away. And then as soon as home perms became a thing, you know, then we started doing that, and this is what you end up with. So it's never since then ever been as straight as it was, because I guess it keeps some of that texture forever, but it's not curly either. So it's like this weird in between, whatever, it is what it is. But as a younger adult, I feel like I'm more so made peace with what it was and stopped trying to change it too much. Hence the bob. Once I went with some straight short hair, I feel like at least it started to do what it wanted to do. We could just work with gravity instead of against it, because it doesn't really hold a curl either. So it's a bit of wasted money and effort. And that's it. I mean, you can see how fast it was and how easy it was, and you just keep feeding and twirling until you get to the bottom of the strand of hair, and you don't get like much of it's just enough to, there, just enough to make it look like it's done instead of undone, which is what it looked like when we started. And then you move on to the next side. And I really feel like that couldn't be any easier. So I'll do the other side, but you might be able to see better. Same exact technique. You're basically curling under, but you've got a whole bunch of leftover hair there at the end, see? So just try and find it to kind of bring it over. There's one stray, and then just come down slowly. And as you come down with the curl, then the last part of it is feeding in, and you end up with like a little corkscrew ringlet, whatever you want to call it. And even though you're curling under, because of the corkscrew or the swirl, it ends up looking like it's curling away from your face. So obviously change the technique if you don't want it curling away. You know, I mean, not really anything too revolutionary. You know, and like I said, I haven't even transitioned to a newer curling wand like other people. I don't straighten, so I never bought one of those straightening irons, because that's just not me. I never had a desire to have hair that was straighter than it already is. So, same thing. Give yourself enough room to curl under so that it can actually roll around without burning your head. And then you've got that extra piece that's coming through that's gonna feed in slowly. That's it. Just shaves so much time off of my morning, or maybe just made it seem so much easier. Or maybe a better way is like you just get more reward for your effort because it looks like it's done and finished, as opposed to if you rush through the blow drying, sometimes that doesn't have a very finished look to it. I did. And I'm just doing sections, like nothing earth-shattering here, you know? Move that out of the way and do the longer section. So if you do this already and you've already figured it out and I'm late to the party, let me know. I do feel like I'm late to the party with this, honestly, but sometimes you just don't realize that sometimes things look harder and more intimidating than they actually are, which is why I figured I'd make the video and let everybody know that it's really not as hard at all as I envisioned it. So hopefully that lets you know it's not as hard as you would have thought, and that helps you give it a try. Like, this piece doesn't look like the curl took, so we'll do that again. I have very, very stubborn hair that wants to be straight, so that does happen to me. You know, I'm not complaining about having a lot of hair, because I know some people would kill to have thicker hair. Just, it's time consuming. You know, when you feel like you want to do something with it, it's very time consuming. Anyway, so hopefully that helped you. If it did help you, then I guess, you know, send me a message or stick it in the comments. Pass it on. If it helped you, it will probably help somebody else. That's why I decided to take a few minutes, turn on the camera, and again, not because I think it's, you know, it's such a difficult thing to do or teach, but just because I feel like maybe if I hadn't seen it myself, I wouldn't have believed her about what it looked like before and what it looked like after, because usually this would take me an hour and a half because I would sit and I would dry it first. So I'm sure you can tell now, it doesn't have a lot of body at the top the way that it would if I dried it, but it definitely gives it enough to be, you know, convincing that it's done as opposed to undone, you know. And because my hair doesn't hold a curl, that's gonna start to come out almost immediately, which is okay with me because I don't want it to be like super kinky curly. I just want it to look like it's finished. So anyway, hopefully that helps you. Have a good day. Enjoy.